Hi, this is Matt Donegan from Challenger Stories. I'm here with René, who's the CEO of Browser London. It's a UX-focused digital agency. Now, René, tell me what you actually do. What is a UX-focused digital agency and who do you work with?
Thanks, Matt. Well, we deliver, digital design and development for organizations and businesses such as the recently British Library, also Medicine Sans Frontières, and other organizations such as the Mayor of London. I guess our USP, our focus is on data-driven platforms. We have a wealth of experience in that type of medium, whether it's large scale, whether it's kind of small scale platforms, but primarily it's data-driven platforms.
So can you expand on that for me? What do you define as a data-driven platform, and how does it vary from any other type of platform?
So I would say traditionally you would say that data-driven platforms, you would have dashboards, you would have platforms that inherit vast amounts of data, databases, etc. I guess in the past, all the way up to kind of very recently with British Library, what we've been doing is looking at large data sets, etc. And if I take the British Library as something that's as an example of that, we've helped them design or research, should I say, design, and then look to develop a platform that exposes their vast array of data sets for machine learning in the future. So we've been working, designing, building out interfaces for dashboards that would inherit large databases, whether that data is input via other services or data that our clients have in their own systems. Essentially, those platforms interfaces will be a hub that absorbs all of that data, looks to crunch all of that data, and then deliver meaningful outcomes from whatever that data may be. Something that we've been working on recently is with the British Library to help them deliver a platform for their vast array of data sets that they have within the British Library, which coincidentally is the second biggest library in the world, something that I didn't know before we started working with them.
Wow.
And
That is impressive.
Yeah, that platform looks to expose all of the data sets that they have to help data scientists, etc., with their machine learning projects. So it's a really interesting kind of medium to kind of work in at the moment.
So effectively what the business does is it makes sense from data and is able to present that data in a way that could be used by the end user.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct?
And within that, what we do is a lot of kind of the research, so the user research. What is it that those users need to gain from this platform or from that data? We then look to kind of go through a strategic kind of phase where we look to kind of understand and start mapping out options of how they could use that data and what they would need it for. And that kind of goes into some of our other processes that we use, such as jobs to be done, etc. And then we look to design a platform or a service that will help those end users achieve their objectives. And then we go on into development of that platform as well. The stuff that we do these days is more so in terms of development is working with the front end development. So very much in terms of the front end part of it. So whether that's building out in React or Vue or Next, etc., that type of thing. And then linking into our clients' databases and their IT teams. So essentially what we do now is become kind of an extension of the IT team or the back end team that our clients have.
Okay. So fundamentally you become an integral part of the business because you provide the visualization of the data sets that's going to empower the business.
Yeah, it's the skills. We slip in there and become essentially providing the experience and the skills and the knowledge of how to kind of bring all of that data to the front end, and deliver a service that those end users are going to be able to use, that they need, that they're also going to be able to use as well, for whatever their objectives be.
You have some amazing clients, the British Library. I believe you said Medicine Sans Frontières as well. Obviously an amazing organization. Yeah. Has the ability have these clients come to you because of reputation? Is it because of how long you've been in the marketplace? How are you acquiring such amazing clients?
Yeah, it's, we've been going for several years now. And I think when we first started out, this was a long time ago. We kind of we started out kind of building websites, very, very long time ago, back in kind of 2006, 2008, when we kind of founded the company. And then we moved very quickly into kind of building products and services around the time kind of 2000, maybe 10, where those types of products and services kind of input-output applications weren't as popular or as rife as they are now. It's the kind of the rise of SaaS services. So even from that early time, we've always kind of shared with the community about what we do. So our blog is quite rife in terms of kind of thought leadership and also processes in terms of how we do things and opinion pieces. I've worked, I've been fortunate, I would say, to have worked and employed some fantastic people over the years. Some that I still work with at the moment. And so that kind of depth of knowledge and understanding and been doing it for so long has been, we're all over the internet, and I guess in terms of references for certain things. And I'm surprised at some point how some of our blogs, etc., from say 2019 are still pulled up now. And if you look at your analytics, they're still kind of quite popular. So it's a mix of that type of thing, trying to make sure that we're at the forefront of what we do and talking about it and sharing it with the community, which, to me is a big thing. It also serves as a really good kind of marketing employ as well, but also being out there and trying to speak to people and essentially make friends and build those relationships with clients who then can put you in front of or recommend you to other clients. There's a large proportion of our business, our new business, comes from those recommendations. We work with, I would say, decent amount of clients at any given time, but the majority of our projects, I would say are 3 to 6 months minimum. Some of them go on for years and so forth. So you end up building a really close working relationship with some of those people that you work with on the client side as well. And essentially, in some cases, they become good friends as well, which is a really nice thing.
So it's taking that role from being a supplier to a trusted partner, isn't it? And it sounds like you're very good at becoming that trusted partner for the clients that you work with, which is admirable. It doesn't always happen, and sometimes it kind of falls out. Let's talk about the challenges about developing a product or developing an application for a client. So what would be your 3 recommendations for starting off the process of working with a new client to build a complex system?
I think in terms of those top kind of 3 things in terms of building the system, first of all, it would be ensuring that you've got a mutual alignment and understanding of what you're trying to achieve from that project. What is this platform or service going to do? Who is it going to be servicing? That type of thing. That alignment with everybody in the room, stakeholders, is sometimes quite difficult to kind of get to. So we use workshops in some respects to try and get that kind of to the forefront of people's minds. From my perspective, which has always been our business, at the forefront of our business is user first, user needs. So we use things such as jobs to be done framework to collate user research, build that into a framework where we can help present what those user needs are. What are the jobs that they need to do? What are the pains? What are the gains that they are experiencing? And I think, second and perhaps third with those as well is conviction, being able to back up your ideas, even when they're unpopular or they're unproven, having that kind of conviction. That conviction for us, I guess, comes from experience. There's a lot of experience in terms of being in that kind of realm of where perhaps ideas or approaches are unpopular, but having done it for so long, that it will work. And the third point that I mentioned there was adaptability. I think, if the data or the situation changes and it demands that you need to adapt to that and effectively pivotal sort, being open to that adaptability and having that kind of that mindset where, yes, okay, things can change, but it needs to be data driven of sorts. There needs to be a firm foundation for making that change or that pivot, etc. I think those 3 kind of things are fundamental really for the delivery of a good project and are quite straightforward. There's nothing complex about it. Dealing with people, it can be a challenge.
So I guess what you're saying is about understanding what the process is, understanding what the product needs to be, questioning the product, challenging it, challenging assumptions, drilling really into the real, genuine needs of the product, and then just being clear about what that is with all parties, and then be agile with regards to how you adapt and change the product if and when that's going to happen. So taking that a much more agile approach in product development. Would that be a reasonable summary?
Yeah, I think that's right on the money there, Matt.
We've briefly discussed about the challenges of developing a new product for a client or a new application, but what do you think it takes to become a challenger or to be a challenger in a marketplace?
Yeah, so I think, first and foremost, it's very easy to, I guess, lose focus in terms of as a business, it's very easy to lose focus in terms of what is your USP. And I think being able to kind of remain on track, remain on target, not being drawn away by other things that go on is really important. So making sure that you stick to what you do from the outset. Now, that's not to say that, yes, you should pivot if things change, and you should always consider pivoting, but that pivot or that adaptability has to be backed up by data. It has to be clear in terms of being able to make that decision. And I think, much as I mentioned on the last question that you asked, conviction, you've got to kind of be able to kind of back up your ideas and what you believe and what you're doing, even when they're unpopular or unproven. And that's more so within, let's say, within the C-suite. You sit around kind of a boardroom, and there will be challenges. There will be differences between each and every individual in that room, but being able to kind of back that and conviction up, and with data, if possible, or a necessity really, is kind of quite key, I think. Believing in what you're trying to push forward, but also being adaptable and open-minded to be able to make a change and pivot if it's required. I think that's essentially where I see being the attributes that you would need to be a challenger, remain a challenging entity.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at. I think we've all heard about how Jeff Bezos at Amazon has always said, "Act like a startup." We are still a startup. And that kind of that very focused, that very focused, driven thought process about how you're going to enter and execute in the marketplace. What it does, of course, is it gets rid of the shiny toys. Yeah. Because the one thing that I see in lots of different businesses is there's a new shiny toy. There's a new CEO in town or a new CMO, and they want to try the new things. And that's great that you want to try it. But actually, at what point are they a distraction and a shiny toy? And at what point are they critical to the mission of the business? There's a fantastic quote by Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all people. And I love this. He says, plan B is make plan A work. And having that focus is exactly that. So I completely agree with what you just said there. Yeah. What about becoming a market leader? What do you think the attributes of becoming a market leader are?
Yeah, and I think this kind of flows on quite well from your previous question on there, Matt. It's one thing that I absolutely believe in. This is very kind of widespread now, thankfully, but it's absolute focus on customer needs. You mentioned Jeff Bezos, and obviously with Amazon, when it first started out, it was customer needs. Focus on those customer needs, and I still believe that's an absolute kind of key, if not the one focal point that we believe in, that I believe in. Walking into a room with potential customers or new clients of ours, that's not always at the forefront sometimes of their minds. There's different kind of motives for people being in the room to kind of talk about what they want, etc. But trying to kind of encourage everybody into the understanding about focusing on those customer needs, those user needs from your platform is absolute key. In my world, it's those user needs, and I think within that, it's not just the user needs and what they want. It's absolutely about why they want it. I've mentioned things that we use, the workshops such as Jobs to be Done. It's why do those users want to do it? What is it that they actually want to get from the product or service that our client, that you are looking to deliver to them? What is it that they actually want? Why do they want that? I think when you can kind of look to kind of answer why they want it, it opens up a much more kind of granular understanding around how to design a platform or service or website or whatever else it might be, and be able to kind of deliver a much more performance service for those users once you understand why they need it. It's fascinating once you really kind of get into that and you start questioning the why within.
Oh, can I ask you a question around that? Which is by asking the customer and being very rigorous in that approach, you kind of create the North Star for the customer at the point that we've got to get to. What's been your experience of when people start losing sight of the North Star? Because it happens. Shining toys come in. How do you turn that around?
Yeah, and I think this is where you just traditionally, obviously, I'm a keen believer in building relationships and understanding everyone. So it's perhaps not just about, first of all, not just understanding about your user needs and understanding why they want it and what they want, but also looking back into the business as well and saying, okay, everyone in the C-suite, what do you want from this, and tell me why you need that, and trying to understand it from everybody's perspective. So that's something that we've certainly kind of subscribed to in terms of that in the past. But also kind of, looking at data and representing that in a way that everybody perhaps within the C-suite can understand, because data theoretically, can be just black and white. And once you start seeing that data and what that data means, I guess it's hard to kind of turn a blind eye at that and kind of move forward. And I think whenever we can kind of bring in those two kind of entities, the kind of understanding everybody, when we say everybody, that's the C-suite, that's the user, but also bring in that research data, present that research data to kind of show findings behind all of that together, and understanding what that all means. That's a very strong kind of message in terms of this is where we believe that we should be going with this platform in terms of the direction, what it should be doing. Hopefully that kind of answers the question there, Matt.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. So with regards to direction and know where you're going, if I can ask something around browser, which is, you're a serial entrepreneur. Browser's been going for a while, and Browser London is absolutely top of the tree in terms of what it does for its clients. What's been the most challenging aspect of developing the business over the last, say, 5 years?
I think
in terms of the business growth, I mean.
Yeah, I think there is enough. I touched on this earlier. We will have been going 15, 16 years as of this year, or 17 years as of this year. I think keeping focused, adapting are two things. We have spun up other kind of startups that we've incubated within Browser and kind of launched them as SaaS business products and tested the market. Now, whilst that's a fantastic thing to do, A, because you're spawning a new business, and then B, you're also challenging yourself. You're looking at new technologies and how that's going to adapt, but you're also gaining all of that knowledge and then being able to take that back to the clients as well and say, okay, look, we've done this with our own product. We've tested it. We've believed in it. We can bring all of that through and deliver it into your service as well. That's been fantastic. I've absolutely loved being involved in that kind of journey. And B, it's proven to be a success in many cases. Not always a success, of course, nothing ever is, but in many cases it's been successful to be able to take that technology, that knowledge back into our client services as well. The fallout from that, I guess, is that to a degree, yes, you are reinvesting in yourself, and you are, which I'm a big believer in, constantly learning, constantly having to learn, forgetting what you've done before and relearning. And then taking that knowledge back to clients. But in doing so, what you do perhaps is you may lose focus in terms of what you're trying to do with the business. If there was a rewind of sorts, back to a younger René, then really trying to focus on things such as exit plan and what that might look like. Perhaps might have been something, not that you're ever looking perhaps to exit. But I always see that as almost as kind of a catalyst to kind of say, okay, we need a recheck in terms of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think that type of thing is always quite necessary. And maybe that's an annual thing when you do your AGM, etc. But that refocus, that check-in with trusted board members or colleagues or whoever else that might be is a really, really meaningful thing. So,
Yeah. Having a 10-year goal, a 5-year goal, what does it look like when it's finished? I often get pushback and people say, our business is never truly finished. And they're right to a degree, but I think the definition for me is that a business is finished when you as the founder don't need to be involved on any level unless you really want to.
Yeah.
Because you've got a really strong senior leadership team, a great management team, process and systems in place, deliver a great product. You've got a team that's agile enough to be able to respond to the marketplace. And if you left them to their own accord, they do a better job than you. That is a finished business. And I often find that businesses don't aim for that. And what they do is they get on the hamster wheel and they just say, right, well, we're going to try and make some profits this year and we're going to increase our profits a bit or increase our revenues. Often revenues, not even profit. And that's just being on the hamster wheel. So what you're saying is that recheck that you do annually to make sure you're on track for getting to the place that you really want to get to, your own personal North Star.
Yeah.
That is a great way to refocus a business.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I think, I'd dial it back a little bit more than annually. I'd say, if you're going to do it quarterly or even monthly, just for your own self as well as a business leader, I think it's an absolute must. You mentioned, in terms of challenges, a second ago, and it's, you never know what's going to be happening in the next 6 months or so. So yeah, I remember back to kind of a point when Brexit happened and volatility within the markets at that point, and then recently, volatility. But you adapt to it, you grow stronger from it, and I think that's always kind of a plus point from unfortunate situations that happen that are out of your control in that sense.
If I can ask a quick question around that then, because I, like you, have been through a number of shocks, as it were. So the great financial crash, Brexit, we've had a series of not so many shocks. Recently, we've had Ukraine, cost of living crisis. The march of AI is changing things dramatically. We're seeing the headwinds are really strong for businesses at the moment. What's your kind of way of getting through that? Because you've been through those big shocks. You've been through Brexit. You've seen the shockwaves there, and anybody who's been running a business for long enough will realise that there are and were substantial headwinds. How do you deal with those headwinds?
Yeah, it's I think first and foremost, that experience is golden, really. As unfortunate as it is, it's golden because it does make you wiser, stronger for any kind of situations happening in the future. I think what I personally have come to learn from those types of things is that they are an indicator of what's to come, and you need to make confident decisions as quickly as you can to be able to kind of put yourself, put your business, put everybody, clients in a good place so that you can weather those storms as well. And I think that's something that's it's a difficult thing because many things kind of come with having to make difficult decisions as you look to kind of position yourself to kind of weather that storm. And I think being able to kind of confidently make those decisions, put in place a plan, write it down. I'm a big believer in writing things down because once you write it down, it's kind of in your head. But I think writing that plan down, even before things happen, is kind of fundamental to being able to be in a position that you can weather those storms. And yeah, it's difficult, but I think if you have a plan in place, if you organize everything correctly, and if you make those decisions confidently, then you are able to kind of pull yourself through whatever those challenges may be.
Weathering the storm sometimes, and in order to weather the storm, you need to know what your destination is before you even push out there. Okay, so look, some really great insights there. Can I ask you, is there anybody or anything that has really inspired you in business?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked a very long time ago with a very good friend of mine called Lucas, who introduced me to an author. He's an author and an entrepreneur called, I'll probably pronounce this incorrectly, but Rolf Dobelli, who wrote a book, The Art of Thinking Clearly. And that's kind of been at the forefront of kind of my decision making really for quite some time. He talks about things in there around kind of the cognitive bias and how it affects our decision making, but also within that, when to spot that cognitive bias, how to avoid it. For me, it's ultimately helped me make better decisions along the way. Fantastic book. If you do get a chance, I would recommend anyone listening to kind of pick up a copy of it. It's a relatively short read, but very good. It's The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. Yeah.
Great tip. No doubt using some of the techniques that were, or the findings that were acknowledged by Daniel Kahneman with thinking fast and slow, cognitive biases, which went on to become behavioral economics. Yeah. That thinking, I completely agree with you. It's fantastic to begin to understand how the human mind works, recognize when we have things like biases and how they drive and motivate us, because the human brain's really complex. And when you're running a business, you need to be clear-headed, make good decisions and make them quickly. So that's a great tip. Thank you very much for that. I'll check out that book as well.
Pleasure.
That's fantastic. Well, René, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. It's unusual when I speak to lots of different businesses where the CEO is so concise, that they're so practiced in what they're doing, and they're calm about how they're going to develop their business and where they've been before. It feels like you've got a strong hand on the rudder, and you know where you're going, and you're delivering that with your clients. So, René, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you.
Pleasure, Matt. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show. It's been really good fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.